You guys really seem to not like that last video I made. The only videos that I've really made that have gotten so much hate are the ones where I do something bad or say something bad about Harbor Freight tools, or where I talk about Rick Dyer.
Boy, Cal, God, get a girlfriend or something, brother.
I've got this little $20 power inverter from Harbor Freight. I'm gonna see exactly what you can put this through before it finally breaks or at least just shuts itself off. This is just like I said, a cheap Harbor Freight power inverter. What you're supposed to do with these is it takes 12 volts direct current from your car and turns it into 110 alternating current for household appliances, stuff that you plug in into a regular wall outlet. This one is rated to 200 watts continuous and a 400 watt peak. And this, I don't think this is actually the cheapest one you can get at Harbor Freight, but it is the cheapest one that you can, that comes with the clips to hook it straight up to your car's battery. And the reason why I chose this one over just like one of the cheaper ones that you plug right into your cigarette lighter is I don't really want to blow my cigarette lighter fuse. Not that it would be a big deal, but I'd rather, for what I'm doing with it, I'd rather just go ahead and have it straight on my battery to reduce the potential for damage to my truck. So just to start off with, this inverter comes with actually both types of cables. It comes with the ones that you hook right up to your battery, but also comes with one that you can plug into your cigarette lighter. I'm not going to be using this because I'm actually going to see how much this thing will take and what happens when you go over the capacity on it. To set it up, it's pretty simple. You've got this little black goes to black, red goes to red. You just unscrew these little thumb screws. Really nothing to it. You probably make your own wiring for it so it's more permanently attached to your vehicle if you wanted. It's got a on-off switch, an LED, and it has one USB outlet. And pop it onto the battery and see what we can use it for. We'll just start off by putting these little clips on. Put the black on the negative side of the battery. Put the red on the positive side. Light turns on. I'm gonna start the truck before I do any of these tests. All right, so I've started the truck. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of baseline it by running this little Milwaukee 12 volt charger off it. I know that it will work for this, or I expect it to work for this. I hope you guys can hear me over my truck running here. Power is on. All right. And the charger works. Now, with that plugged in, to run this 18 volt rigid charger. Don't think I'll be pushing it with these two things plugged in. I think that this is a pretty real world test, real world situation that somebody would put this into. I don't think I'm really stressing it at all. So the rigid charger and the Milwaukee charger both have power right now, and they're both charging. So that is success on that. Does exactly what I expected it to there. I want to go ahead and try and incrementally push the limits of this inverter. I got the truck running right now. I'm going to plug in this light all by itself and see what happens. It works, but it's kind of dim. It's not a very steady light, and this light is usually much brighter. It's brighter and dimmer and brighter and dimmer. I guess this wouldn't be a horrible use for it if you were stuck on the side of the road, but yeah. probably not the suggested thing to use it for. On the edge of its abilities. This little inverter has a fan in the back of it, and it's running right now pretty good, running full blast. It didn't seem to be running at first, but I can hear it running now. Let's see if it'll shut off if I add this charger. Now remember, it's supposed to be a 400 watt peak. So let's see if maybe it goes by its duty cycle and it will just shut itself off even though it's under the peak. If it'll shut itself off just because you've exceeded its duty cycle. Okay, we just added the Milwaukee charger. I'm not really sure what the wattage that it's drawing is. It says on the charger that with 120 volt input, it draws 750 milliamps. So maybe like just under 100 watts. That's 250 watts, that light. And I'd say that it's probably drawn as much of that wattage as it can right now, because it's, I don't know if you can tell in the camera, but the light is dimmer than it would be if you plugged it into your house, and it's kind of pulsing. It's not a steady beam. Now, I want to try the rigid charger. I'm going to replace the Milwaukee charger with the rigid charger to see if I get myself closer to the peak on that inverter. It worked for a couple seconds. So, kinda. I've shut it off to reset it. So I'm letting it cool off for a second, and then I'm gonna go and turn it all back on and see what happens. All right, I'm turning it on now. It's all working. And now it's shut off. We hit its duty cycle. I'm gonna try to use this angle grinder on that 200 watt inverter. The angle grinder says that it draws 120 volts around 4.3 amps. The inverter peaks at 400 and is only 200 watts continuous. So this could go either way. We're on the line because I'm sure that that even though it says 4.3 amps, that's probably only when you're really stressing this grinder. But we'll see what happens. Alright, the inverter is on. Now I'm going to go ahead and try this grinder. The grinder is the only thing plugged into it right now. Not going to use it on anything, just going to turn it on and see what happens. It shut it off right away. But it just gave me a warning. It doesn't seem like it's too big of a deal.
In the owner's manual, it talks about the fact that this inverter uses what's called a modified sine wave. I'm not an expert on electronics, and I'm not going to claim to be, but I do see what it's saying here. So in here, it says, modified sine wave power is suitable for most AC, alternating current devices, transformers, and motors. Not used to power sensitive devices such as medical equipment or computers. Some audio equipment may perform poorly if run on modified sine wave power. And it shows like a little graph here. So you can see that, and because of this modified sine wave power, that might have contributed to the flickering we were seeing with the work light. I also believe it might have been from the alternator on the truck fielding. So alternators on cars don't make a constant 14 or 13 and a half volts. They actually make like full power and they turn off very, very frequently. So what they're doing is it's like if you turned a light switch on and off really fast, you would see that the light gets brighter or dimmer the more frequently you do it and the longer you hold it into the on position. Well, it's kind of the same idea with an electrical system in a car. So what might have been happening is the voltage regulator for the charging system on this truck was trying to keep up with that, but it wasn't doing it consistently. It was fielding it for a while and bringing it up above, you know, the voltage it needed and then letting it drain down. So that's why we were seeing that happen, especially when we plugged in the chargers into our inverter. We definitely saw that flicker. So that's another thing about it. If the DC input voltage drops too low, the alarm on the inverter will sound. Should the input voltage drop further, the inverter will shut down automatically to prevent permanent battery damage. And recharge your battery soon on your car is what they mean. I don't think that was our issue because the truck was running, so I don't think that was the problem. If the DC input voltage exceeds 5.2 volts, the inverter will shut down automatically. It's possible that we exceeded 15.2 volts, but I don't think that's what was causing it. This is what I think was causing it. If the output load power rises higher than the rating power of the inverter, the unit may shut down automatically. The inverter may automatically shut down if its internal temperature gets too high. I think it was a little of both. I felt this inverter after I was really stressing it with that light, and it was hot. It was very, very hot. And I don't think that plugging in the rigid battery charger brought it above its rating power, but I think it just brought it too close to the peak and for too long, and it just gets too hot and shuts itself off. If you were in a colder climate, because like right now the ambient temperature is like 85 degrees out here, so you know, if you were in a little bit colder of a climate, you would probably find that this would run all that stuff a lot longer than it did for me. Probably wouldn't even shut off. But the problem with the grinder was definitely the output load power. I mean, that grinder right on the top of it says that it puts out like almost 5 amps. So at 110, you know, if it's 4.3 amps at 110 volts, I mean, that wattage is way above peak. So now, would I recommend this inverter? Well, like anything else, it depends on what you want to do with it. If you plan on just using it to charge your phone, or you probably charge a laptop with it. It says that you shouldn't use it to power computers, but a laptop kind of has this inherent protection in it where it has a battery that it's charging and then you're running the laptop off of the battery. So I think you'd be okay to use it to charge a laptop, but don't take my advice on that, because I'm really not sure. I wouldn't try it on my laptop, but then again, you know, it probably would work. But yeah, if you're just charging power tool batteries and that kind of usage on it, then I think it would be perfectly fine. I would definitely suggest it for that. Anything more than that, I mean, it ran my work light fine, but it really, I wouldn't suggest it because you can't do anything else with it, honestly. So I hope you guys like this one a little bit better than the last one, but if you don't, I mean, there's not really much I can do. I'm just being myself and giving my opinion. If you like these videos, please be sure to throw a like in there. Please, if you dislike it, you can keep disliking it. It really doesn't matter. And if you want to see more, subscribe.